Hi everyone, welcome to Leaders Unplugged. I'm your host Raj. Our guest for today is a chief dream maker. Yes, you heard it right. Chief dream maker of the Infinity Creative Universe, founder of the Infinity Academy, and the visionary behind Tiarasa Escapes and Dream Forests. Our guest is also an award-winning actor, entrepreneur, producer, storyteller, and sustainability advocate who has redefined innovation across film, theatre, and tourism. So get ready for a conversation about leadership, creativity, and dreaming big for sure. I would like to welcome Puan Sri Tiara Jacquelina. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Raja. Call me Tiara. You always call me Tiara. And everyone calls me Tiara.
Right.
So I'm good with that.
Okay, Tiara it is then. So I'm very curious about this title that you have. Chief Dream Maker.
Okay.
What does that mean and how did it come about?
Well, I never really saw myself as a CEO or managing director, so corporate, because of the work I do, it didn't seem to fit because I'm more of a creative. I'm someone with wild ideas. I'm rebellious. I'm unconventional in the work I do and the way I think. So I didn't want to confine myself to managing director. And even at Infinity, the company I run right now, none of us carry titles, no corporate titles.
Really?
Yeah. Someone came to interview one day with us and she said, I used to be the head of sales at my previous company. So at Infinity, what will my title be? I said, you want a title? I said, okay. Well, here you can choose lah. We all have circus titles. We have a tightrope walker. We have a crystal ball gazer. We have a lion tamer. We have a ringmaster. Those are all taken. You choose one title for yourself lah.
So they're going to pick their own.
Yeah, they pick their own. So it kind of gives it sets a tone for what life is going to be at Infinity. We don't expect you to behave normal and to think normal. And you start kind of realizing that, oh, okay, I can relax a little bit here. And you get to create your own title. So you start to think like, what am I? Am I more of a snake charmer, or am I the human cannonball of this organization, or what?
So you're not confined to corporate structure.
No, and leading without title. So no one has a title. Like everyone does everything.
But in terms of, what about org structure? Is there an org structure?
There's an org. There's an org chart lah. Org chart, but
with titles.
Lion tamer, and under that is the ringmaster and the tightrope walker and whoever. And I am the chief dream maker lah, because I am the master of this Infinity Circus of Dreams.
So talking about dreams, you have done, I don't know, I can't even list, I don't think so even my list will hold enough line items. You have done so many things, right?
It's been a long journey.
That's where we're getting to. Where did you start? How did you start?
How did it start? Well, it started in college. So when I was a student at KDU University College, studying business, economics, business law, costing, statistics, I was like, how boring is this? I want out. But instead of getting out, I decided, what if I applied everything I was learning as I was learning it to actually going into business? So I told my friend, Jennifer Ong, who was studying with me, I said, let's set up a business lah. She was like, you're mad. We haven't even, we're only in our first term. I said, why not? We know it. When you're 18, you're like, you can rule the world. You can do anything. And that's the beauty about being young. We're like, why not? We know it. We have the books. So we set up a $2 company, and I was then. I would do commercials in between studying just to pay my rent, my school fees, and all that. And I knew a few people in the advertising industry from being a talent. I decided, let's create a business that doesn't exist to service the advertising agencies. And so we set up a 2-ringgit talent scouting agency. And I said that we can go to all the agencies and introduce our wonderful, big, hairy, audacious goal of transforming the Malaysian advertising industry. Masalah, think big, So we put together a portfolio of new faces. We went around town taking pictures with our, what you call that? The pakai buang camera. It was one of those, no money at the time to even buy a camera. So we went around taking pictures of good-looking people, good-looking children, interesting faces, and put together a portfolio that we later walked into 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏 advertising, no less.
𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏.
Yes, without an interview. 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏.
Yeah.
Raja. We walked in and my friend said, I'm not going to talk. You go and talk. I said, of course I'm going to talk. So I went in. Hi, we would like to see Mr. 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏. I'll tell you, the receptionist, Maria was her name, I'll never forget. She laughed so loud. She was banging the table so hard. It was lunchtime, okay? She was like, korang ni, tahu tak, 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏 dah mati 50 years ago. and we were there like, oh, okay, no problem. I'll see the number 2 then. Very bold, again, shameless at the time. And she had the biggest laugh ever. She said, what do you want to show? So I said, I told her I have a proposal for 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏 that will change the advertising in Malaysia and all that. And she, at that time, she just called everybody, coming to see the circus. Look at these 2 little girls here thinking they can rule the world. And as it was, okay, so as it happens, the 2 art directors of 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗏𝗏 were walking past, coming back from lunch. Freddie Lee and Keith Fu, I think were their names. Gosh, this is really going back. And they were like curious. So let's see, what is it they're selling? And so I said, I have a portfolio of fresh faces for your commercials. Because I knew from attending auditions, I audition, I get. I'm like, wow, is there no one else in this world? They only know a few people, and the same people audition and get the jobs. Even though it meant less work for me, but surely there's so many other good-looking people in Malaysia that should be on TV. So I told him, I said, what are you casting for next? And he told me, I can't remember, was it M&M's chocolate or something? I said, I have 40 people here, all fresh faces, never been on TV, that you should consider for your next commercial. And he was like, oh, okay, interesting. And then he called Jennifer Hendroff, who was she was a head producer then. And he told her, he said, let these girls look for another 50 new faces and we will select from there for our next commercial. And Jennifer Hendroff was the next angel who came along. She was like, very sad, your camera, your instant camera, your disposable camera it was. And she says, I will lend you my camera. It's not much better. And this was one of those cameras that with film,
right,
that you close like that. And
right,
it couldn't close. You have to put tape around it. But she said,
worked.
It worked. And I said, we'll take it. I said, I will fill this camera with 50 more new faces before the end of this week and come back and show you. And I did. 2 days. Actually, we went around town everywhere, cinemas, shopping malls, looking for fresh new faces for commercials. And they were impressed. They were like, wow, these girls really mean business. So that was my start. It was Many helping hands along the way that got me started.
What happened to that company that you have formed? After that, how did it evolve then?
So from doing talent scouting for several years, I decided to go into getting some of the talents to learn to model, to catwalk model. And from catwalk modeling, I thought, okay, this is a bit easy and a bit repetitive. Why don't we teach our catwalk models to then dance and sing? So it started there. I said, every model can walk, but not every model can sing and dance. So let's put on a show that's a little different, a bit more entertaining. So it started from there, and bless them. They were like, okay, we'll go with you. We trust you. And we started having, it became a review in the end. It became a show called the KitKat Club Show. And that was quite an era. It was the most exciting show. Beautiful girls, gorgeous men, and they could sing and dance and entertain. It evolved into becoming, into including a comedy skit. And we had a host in the show, and it was just mad.
There's huge amount of creativity involved in what you do. And you always push the boundaries, right? How do you get the members that you have in your organization to be aligned with what you are thinking? They need to be as creative as you are too, to make sure that things happen, or at least close to what you are thinking. And they come from very diverse backgrounds, right? So how is that being managed?
Okay. Well, I think first and foremost, the people I work with trust my vision. So they trust me they trust the vision. And I lead, the way I lead also, I started out very different. I started out as a one-man show, so I did everything. So I would edit, I would write, I would do everything. I would find the finances, I would put together the costumes. It was a one-man show. But later on, I had enough money to hire a team. So then I started to let go and be a little more collaborative in nature, in my work. And I learned that, okay, so this takes a lot of stress off me, but at the same time, watching over people's shoulders to make sure, because I'm such a perfectionist. I've always been a little bit of that kind of a girl since school. But so you're talking about bringing together diverse people.
Right.
Let me tell you the story of how we put together Puteri Gunung Ledang, the musical. It was our very first time putting on Malaysia's first big-scale musical. And we had no experience, so we brought in Dick Lee from Singapore, the musical maestro from Singapore. I'm a big fan of his work. And I approached him and said, I would like to produce Malaysia's first musical. Will you help us? And so he led the creative team, which consisted of co-directors Zahim Al-Bakri and Adlin Aman Ramli. They were working together for the first time. We had Raja Malik, who was a renowned set designer and creative genius. So he looked after the visuals and the set. Pat Ibrahim was our choreographer. Roslan Aziz was our very passionate sound engineer and renowned album producer. So he looked after the sound. And so we put all these people together in one room, and at every creative discussion, it would be, you can imagine, everyone speaks very loudly and everyone is like, oh, this idea, that idea, this idea, that idea. And many times my role is to be referee, like, oh, okay. Oh, we'll take this one. Okay, hang on, Roslan, kejap. We expand on this idea a little bit. So I have to be like, play that role. One little girl and all these many passionate and very strong-willed, strong-opinioned men. But that's where the feminine energy comes in place, like, oh, okay, we'll stop there. I think things are getting a little overheated. But and it would be like that a lot. But that's where the magic comes together, because these people had never worked together. And I love it when I bring people from diverse backgrounds together, because they don't know what to expect of each other. It's not like I work with you, we do the usual lah, it's like a band playing the same song again and again. But when you bring someone else from a different genre, oh, okay, he's brought a bit of jazz to this tune, or oh, well, that's, wow, gosh, a bit of rock suddenly. So the band that we put together had never played together before. So that made it exciting. And sometimes when things got a bit more tough to manage, and they did, I would bring out my famous, I brought it today, rose quartz crystal ball. So this crystal ball would sit in the center of Infinity's round table, where we have a round room where it's a round table and everyone sits around there to talk about ideas, to discuss to discuss things in a, the energy of that room is something else. Like, it's there's no head of the table, so everyone has an equal voice. Everyone has an equal opportunity to speak and to lead and to just throw whatever ideas out. And the crystal ball sits in the center of the table. And I tell them, before we start this meeting, after the last episode, before we start this meeting, let's remind ourselves that it's about the project. It's not about you. It's not about me. We can't be selfish about our ideas or put our ego out the door. Today, we discuss what's best for the project. So whenever we get distracted or sidelined, I'm going to tell everyone, crystal ball, and they get it. So without saying, oh, you're short-tempered, oh, hang on, you're losing your cool, or what, just crystal ball. And it helps to shift the focus away from what's making them, sometimes everyone, when you're good, you want to push your agenda, because you think, I know what I'm doing. That's why you hired me. But sometimes it's not for the greater good. So the crystal ball acts as that. I don't know, maybe it's the energy of the rose quartz has this calming energy, and it's supposed to emanate love and all that. So it helps to get everyone somehow to calm down and forget it lah, let's go with your idea. I'm cool with that. And yeah, it worked.
This was when?
2006.
And the crystal ball is still there?
It's still there. It's picked up a lot of different energies and all along the way. There are a few little cracks and things along the way, but it's there. And it still sits there at every one of our Infinity roundtable meetings, because heads of department also sometimes get excited, to say the least.
In producing large-scale projects, theatre, movies, you will need a very collaborative approach. That's a culture on its own.
Uh-huh.
With the diverse background of people that you have, some can be very strong, extroverted, some can be very quiet, introverted. How do you bring this collaboration together to meet your vision?
In the first place, I ensure that everybody's voice matters, right? Around the Infinity Roundtable, everyone gets to throw in an idea. No idea is too absurd. In fact, I say, come on, get crazy. Like if you went mad with this idea, what would it look like? So we invite ideas. It's a safe space for people to throw ideas, and nobody will ever judge you or go, is she mad? I'm the maddest. So how much more mad can anyone get? So anyway, it's about creating a safe space, and it's about collaboration. In theatre, collaboration is key. If the actors and the lighting and the set people and the costumes and the musicians don't sync, you don't have a show. So I like to make my teams think like we need to think like an orchestra. You are an instrument, I am an instrument, he is, and so is she. And at any one time, it cannot be a cacophony of everyone making noise at the same time. That's not music. But one instrument shines at a certain time. And sometimes it's his time, and sometimes it's your time, and sometimes you just have to be that instrument that lends support to this instrument so he can shine. You complement each other. So that's how we need to think. And only then can we create a symphony. Yeah. So no single instrument can create that symphony on its own. So it takes a diverse, similarly in a team, it takes a diverse group of talents to work together to create magic.
When you direct this orchestra, how do they accept this? Yeah.
Well, in like with every collaboration, sometimes it's not easy because the guy with somebody will say like, I've heard this horn section for too long already. I want to just put in one. Just put in a riff. I don't care. And so that's where, like when you're dealing with creative geniuses, it happens. Someone will want to push his idea. And that's where the crystal ball comes out. Like, now we're forgetting. So it's just bringing everyone back down to why are we doing this, and is what you did just now, you think it sounded right for the product, They know when this comes out means it's Tiara's 15-minute pep talk on teamwork and why we need to be together and think together.
Here is also where I want to bring about discussion about people. Right? You spoke very well about managing people, different experience level, etc. But you also saw this lack of experience in some people where you came up with Infinity Academy. So you want to build another talent pool that is very versatile. Can you just go through with us what's the thinking behind and how do you came up with that?
Okay, with Infinity Academy, we started out training people to sing and dance and to act, but it very quickly evolved into leadership for teens and young adults. And I got really excited about this idea. And 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗃, who runs the academy, I told her, I said, we don't just want to teach people to sing and dance and act. Why are we teaching them? Because we want them to eventually grow up to be adults with a very different vision, with creativity, with a very different way of problem solving, people who are bold, who will be visionaries in their respective industries. And that is why, Joanna, we are training these young people. Because these young kids, they can go out and speak at the UN, they have so much, there'll be like little versions of me, you can just go there and talk to anyone. And these are the leaders we want for our country. So we actually created a leadership module for young people. And that was very successful for teenagers going into university, for instance, and it just helped them be a little more on the front foot. They'll be the ones who always happily put their hands up and not just kind of hide behind a laptop somewhere. And I think that these are the people who will go on into management positions because they will stand out for sure. For sure, you'll see like normal. Oh, drama trained, normal. Oh, gosh, this girl is, and they stand out. So from the teens and young adults leadership program, we developed a program for corporates, for corporate organizations. And that is bread and butter of Infinity Academy today. Every single day, 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗃 and Priya Aziz are training one company or another. And training people on different management levels to be able to think critically and to see things differently. Drama is such a powerful tool, it just helps you express yourself clearly, your solving problems creatively, and you're also being very objective about ideas. Because when you're acting in drama, someone might say, no, I don't think you're feeling that way. It doesn't show. And you can't say, I am feeling that way. What are you thinking about? And you accept, okay, so I accept your opinion. I'll try something else. And so when we train people using drama as the tool, as the mode, people don't get sensitive. Like, who says I'm not a team player? But, but when you say you're in this situation and you are the father of the family or whatever, we create situations, people feel, okay, now it's not personal, I'm acting, but, So it's very, very effective. You leave your ego behind and you leave yourself behind and you put yourself into another person's shoes. And suddenly you think, oh, is that what it feels like? Gosh, do I sound like that? Or sometimes you're watching someone else and recognizing yourself. And you're like, do I do that to my staff? Oh, maybe I do. But you're not calling anyone out. So it's a very safe and very, it's been very effective for many companies. And yeah, give Joanna Bessie a call.
So coming back to the point where you raised, companies can actually learn from this, right? I want to talk about storytelling a bit. There's also another aspect of skill sets that one may want to have. And you're very good at that, right? So how do you think industry players or industry leaders can use storytelling to build what they have?
Well, people don't remember facts. They remember stories. And they remember even better if they have been emotionally affected by something, impacted by something. So when I start a project myself, I start with a story with the team. I try to get everyone involved in that story and to agree, not to agree, but to see themselves in that story. So 𝗟𝗲𝗡𝗿𝗀 Bola the musical, when I first started, at the first meeting of 𝗟𝗲𝗡𝗿𝗀 Bola the musical, I shared with the team what I remembered of Malaysia in the 80s when I was a kid, when I was a child. I said it was a very different Malaysia. It was already one Malaysia back then without even trying to be one Malaysia. We had neighbors who were Chinese, Malay, Indian, Punjabi, Eurasian. Everyone kind of just got along and there was no issue. Football was a big thing then because TV also, there was barely any channels and barely anything to watch. So whenever football was on, everyone would go out to the stadium and cheer, and you can see everyone would be there. And that Malaysian-ness stayed on even long after the matches were played. So there was something that was so naturally cohesive about the Malaysian spirit then, which is sadly lacking or lost today. And I said that you and I, do you miss that Malaysia? Do you know that Malaysia? Do you wish for that Malaysia? And a lot of people around the table said, yeah, I wish we weren't so polarized and fragmented today. I wish I could just hang out with my Chinese friend and people won't judge me. And I know I can just post whatever on social media and people won't say, apa ni, And I said that now with this project, we have this opportunity to change Malaysia. So we want to do a great show. We want to do the best show Asia has ever seen. But the bigger picture is that we want to change Malaysia. So I think we need to always do a project, think of the very big picture. So your impact will be huge. And even if, just so your impact won't be like that, it'll be huge. So I said, think about changing Malaysia. And we in this room here, 40, 50 of us, can make that happen from our little corner here in Kota Damansara, And even if we impact 10,000 people, we've impacted 10,000 Malaysians who will change their mindsets and hopefully think about, why isn't Malaysia a bit more like this? Let's all do our bit now, And so that, hopefully that sparks a movement. So we were creating a movement. And around the table, everyone, whether they were set designers, costume designers, actors, writers, composers, everyone wrote and created with that in mind. They would be like, yeah, that's what we want to. Is this going to change Malaysia? Is this going to impact everyone who comes to watch the show? Let's do it this way. So they know the vision. Every actor also knew that my mission is now I am an ambassador of unity. I'm going to create that united Malaysia that we don't see anymore today. And it's very different, Raj. When they perform, they're performing like, it's like jihad, like, you're performing for a higher reason. I don't care if I die today, but
There's a purpose.
There's a purpose.
Yeah.
So you're acting with purpose. You're not just acting to be vain and all that. I'm acting because I tell them, I said, am I feeling it as the audience? What are you telling me? You are saying now that I want, as the captain of the football team of 𝗟𝗲𝗍𝗂𝗧, I want my team to win. But more than that, what's the bigger story? I want my country to win. I want Malaysia to change. Yes. So that's when the energy of it that gets out to the audience is 100 million fold. It's not just, I want my team to win. You're going out there with, whenever I open my mouth, it's a prayer for my country to change. I want a better country. So when you go out there, you speak with that energy.
And be genuine about it, right?
And be genuine about it. Yeah. Raj, we trained for 3 months we trained for 1 month prior to starting rehearsals, where I just wanted to see what the energy would be like between these boys of different races and coming together to do this story about football. And with that in mind, I wanted to just see how they gelled and how can we shape these characters and get them to be like brothers. As I said, that you're playing the Malaysian national football team, okay, not the suka-suka sports club kind of a thing. You're playing for the country, and you need to look as though you've been playing together for the last 8 years. You know how each other thinks, you know each other's smell, you know when you look at each other what his next move is going to be. I want to see that on stage, and because you can't fake that. So in that 1 month, they bonded like real brothers. You can see it's genuine when they high five, when they hug each other, when they, and it's tough for boys coming from Malaysian families. It's just not the thing you do to express your emotion normally. But these boys were genuinely bonded in that brotherhood. And it was so nice for me to see. I said, at the end of 1 month, I have a show. I have a show. And so we created the songs, some drafts of songs, working with 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗲𝗍𝗂𝗧 and Ultimate. This was a hip-hop. 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗲𝗍𝗂𝗍 she came from hip-hop. Ultimate is a rapper. We had Charmaine Othman, comedian. I put them together to co-write. And they didn't know each other from Adam before that. But I wanted to see that, again, bringing genres together to create something different. And they were writing on the go, watching the boys, interact. And that's how 𝗟𝗲𝗍𝗂𝗧 was created. And scenes were shaped that way as well. We would try out the Indian family story. What would it look like? And I would talk to them to ask, what is the dynamic like in an Indian family? What matters to them? What's sensitive? The Chinese family story as well. I wanted to show and to share with other Malaysians. It's different, in different cultures, it's different. And yet it's the same, and how we can understand each other a bit better from watching the show. So yeah, I think that was probably the secret sauce in directing for me that maybe got me the Best Director trophy.
Yeah, amazing, because you also directed and produced the musical safety video for Malaysia Airlines.
One of my favorite projects ever.
Please talk us through.
Well, this was during COVID, when all of us were stuck at home and were towards the end of COVID. And we were just thinking it's the end of creativity. It's the end of our work. We're never going to work again. We're just stuck here in our houses. And I got a call from 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗃, who was then the CMO of Malaysia Airlines. She called me. She said, Tiara, we want to do a new safety video for Malaysia Airlines. And as she was saying the words, that's me lah, sorry. I was already like, I saw it. And she said, before she could even say anything else, I couldn't hear already. I was already, the word safety video already sparked something in my head. I said, why can't I see it? She's like, oh, okay. I said, I already see it. I said, how game is Malaysia Airlines to do something completely new? She's like, you can try lah, lah. We're a bit conservative and we're all that. I said, good. Give me the chance to come and present to your bosses. And I came with this idea of creating a music video out of the safety video. Because I said, like, you yourself don't even listen, right? I don't listen. Who listens? It's so boring. Tuan and Puan, this is your safety belt. This is... Who listens? That's the time you'll be like, right? Wonderful. Okay, so anyway, I said that why don't we create a safety video where people will watch, people will remember, I said, and they will go and, it's in their head the whole time, all the different steps of what I need to do to stay safe on a flight. And because it was the pandemic, or we were at the tail end of the pandemic, everyone was free. Everyone was available. I'm like, Farhan, I could call anyone. Tan Sri Mazlan, the astrophysicist. I called Tan Sri Dr. Jamila. I called fashion designers. I said, I sold the idea to Malaysia Airlines that this is going to be a commercial, this is going to be a safety video where you see all walks of Malaysians on Malaysia Airlines. So it's not just for the business class people or for people who travel for business or look rich and entitled, but it's going to be where everyone travels. So we casted all walks of life. Makcik gang, we had sports people, like the Ola Bola gang you see in there. We had rockers, we had everybody and anybody from different gender orientation even, if you look closely enough, were all in this video. Malaysians of all walks of life were in the video. And we working with Mia Palencia again and Raja Malik, we co-directed with Yusri KRU. I think this is one of my favorite projects ever. And I'm really very proud of it. Every time I fly now, I look forward to the video and like,
it's called Satu Dua Tiga Jom.
Yeah. So, we wanted to put something in it that felt very Malaysian and very catchy. You will hear like tunes from Malaysian folk songs, a little bit of that, and yet all the different genres from rock to rap to hip hop to traditional Malay, everything got in there, so it's us. It's a picture of Malaysia. But it was not easy to sell it at first to Malaysia Airlines. I remember the CEO was like, I wonder what CAM will think of this. I'm like, let me go and sell it to them, please. So I had to go and sell it to the Civil Aviation Authority, which was tough. They're like, tak pernah, it's like, what if it's not clear enough about this part, that part? I said, it's very, very clear. You tell us which part needs to be, we will make sure that all the important things that need to be said will be said, but it'll be sung. And we will also put subtitles there on top of that to make sure that people, if they can't hear or they can't understand, they will read as well. So I think it was a good sell to them, and they bought it. They're like, okay lah. That day they were feeling really adventurous. I think, let's go for something different lah. We've been doing the same thing for 30, 40 years. Let's do something different. And because of that, I think it stands out now. And whenever people fly, they talk about the safety video. And so many other countries are doing a similar video now,
And I must say the title 𝗟𝗲 𝗍𝗂 𝗍𝗂, it's very catchy and very easy to remember. All walks of life, even young children can also easily remember 𝗟𝗲 𝗍𝗂 𝗍𝗂.
Yeah, whenever we create something, we try to think about what makes it memorable and what makes it stay with you, So when you're impacted by something like that, you feel, I see myself in that video. Oh, that's me. That's my mom. That's my mom and her gang, and that's my football brother. We're all in this video, So it's how, as a leader, I think you need to have a vision that makes everyone see your story and makes everyone feel that they are part of that story as well. Then you've sold it to them. Like emotionally, they're like, okay, that's me. I get it.
With all these things spoken, you are telling a story that has huge impact beyond one's imagination. One's maybe ordinary imagination may not even go to that level to some extent, perhaps. However, with storytelling, you are able to bring people together. But I'm also quite keen and also curious to know, with all these projects that you've done, you would have gone through a lot of challenges as well, right? Small, big, medium size, etc. If there are big issues, big challenges that you have faced, among the many that you have, what comes to your mind?
I have a list. And this list of stories never really ever get published. Well, where do I start? So, I'd say the first major experience I had in business related problems was Puteri Gunung Ledang, the movie. So here we were with an ambition of creating Malaysia's biggest ever movie. For the first time, we want to do a movie of world-class standards that could stand alongside any of the other movies in the cinema. When people go to the cinema, they would watch Gladiator, Lord of the Rings, King Arthur, and Puteri Gunung Ledang, and it wouldn't be like, you wouldn't go like, eh. So I said, I want that. During the first round table, a very famous round table, when we called all the heads of department together, because I'd never met anyone. We had never made a movie. It was our first movie. It was Saw Tiong Hin's first movie as a director. It was the director of photography's first movie, art director's first movie. Everybody was doing a first big scale movie. They'd done little movies, but this was like massive scale by our standards, by Malaysian standards. So they sat around and we read the script together, and then they asked me, what kind of a movie are we making? I said, epic. An epic movie. It'll be big. Like what? I said, like Gladiator. I imagine that it will have the magical kind of visuals of Lord of the Rings. And that sense, that grit and that sensibility of Gladiator. Master and Commander, those were the films at the time lah. And everyone looked at me like, what is our budget at the time? $4 million US. They're like, okay. So we want to do a film, the equivalent of something in Hollywood would have cost 200 million US at 4 million. Yes, okay. I'm like, why tak boleh ke? I said, like, who says we can't? Are you macam ada kurang tangan ke? Do you have one less eye or one less limb that you can't do what the Hollywood people can do? If you can't, you tell me how to do your job, I'll do it for you. I said, don't start. So anyway, I said that we are going to do this film where you will be proud to see your name on that credit list when it comes up. You won't be like cringing and not wanting to attend the premiere. You will tell your grandchildren to watch it. You will say, Atok was the gaffer for that film, I carried the lights and I was the prop man or something with pride. I was part of that film. I said, you want to do that film. You don't want to do a cringe film. So I said that we don't have the budget, but we have the will and we are creative. Tak boleh buat, tak mampu, we find a creative way to do it. So I said, however, everyone around this table has to believe that we can do this film. It's like going to war. If one person in the front line says, we're going to die, we are going to die. So if any one of you here don't believe that we can win this war and make this film, I will accept that you can leave the table and walk out now. And someone walked out. Art director walked out. He said, I can't do this movie lah. I can't do this for you, not at this budget. You want palaces, you want war, you want, it's everything is costume, drama. We can't just borrow the costumes from people, we have to make everything. Armors, we have to make, we have horses and explosives. I can't do it. And I said, I respect that. I respect that because I don't want you to go into war and be the first to die. And we will die with you. And so he left. And I said, okay, now we don't have an art director. Great. How do we start filming in 3 months' time? And his assistant said, she stayed on. And she said, I've never done anything bigger than a documentary, but I'm very creative and I'm very good. And I'm like, I like that. I said, can you deliver Gladiator for me? She said, I can. And I said, you know what, Tiong Hin, she's our girl. If anyone says I can do it, it'll be a girl. No. It'll be this person she will win that war for us. And so this girl, 𝗟𝗡𝗍 𝗟𝗡, went on to create our sets and build our palaces and everything that you see that's amazing visually in Puteri Gunung Ledang, and won Best Art Director for her work. First job, so it's about that. If you believe in it, you have a team that believes in your vision, you can win. So Puteri Gunung Ledang was that movie lah, that nightmare that we had to put together. And it didn't stop there. We had to then think about, how do we distribute this film? This was 2004. We had a film ready and we didn't know who to call. We called Finas. They're like, you punya film lain. This one, you're thinking about international. We don't know where you pandai-pandai lah, It was like we were left on our own to figure it out. And we're thinking, who to ask? There wasn't Google search at the time even, okay? 2004. We didn't know. We had to call friends, write letters and send faxes to people. Hi, we are a production company in Malaysia. And just really every day was just sending out SOS to people like, can you help? How do we get this film distributed? As it turns out, by the time we finally, in a year, there are only very few film markets a year. So if you miss one, it takes another 5-6 months till the next one. So by the time you miss 2, it's next year's film. And the value goes down like a second-hand car, pretty much. So we were struggling because we missed the main film market, Cannes. I think it was the Cannes film market at the time. And we had to go for Busan. Oh, no, we missed Busan and we had to, something like that. Anyway, a film very quickly grows old and becomes last year's film. And we were there trying to push a film from a market that the international distributors didn't recognize. Malaysia makes films. You know, they were like, oh, aren't you Indonesia? I said, no, we're not. I know, okay. They're Singapore. No, we're not. We're Malaysia. They're like, oh, funny. We never thought Malaysia made films. So we're going into a market that didn't know us. It's like selling snow. We had to introduce the country, get them to understand like the film. It's romance, but okay, there's no sex, there's no kissing, they're like, how do you sell a romance film and the lead actor and heroine never kiss? They're never in bed. How do you buy that? They're like, it's an Asian romance. It's very different. So all these things, international distributors will be like, can you go back and refilm that part and make them at least kiss, or at least look like they're about to remove their clothes or something? And we finished the movie, we've mastered it, and it's like, you have to take it as it is, done. But so that was it was very challenging. So we pushed it to as many markets as we could just before the expiry date, before the end of the year. And then there was also the challenge of trying to, Saw Tiong Hin and I are also very big dreamers. We said, like, where do we end up with this film? Academy Awards lah. Why not? We're like, I mean, when else, right? To see Malaysia's name in that list. It's never been in that list. We see Iran, South Korea, Singapore even in the foreign film category. But when else would we live to see Malaysia on that list, man? Tiong Hin. We're very proud Malaysians, and Tiong Hin and I are very ambitious and berangan and competitive. We're like, let's get Malaysia on that list. Of course, no one could help us from FINAS, from anywhere, foreign affairs. They're like, we've never done this before. We don't know who you can call. And again, the whole thing about who can help us? How do you get to the Academy of to the Academy to submit a film? And we're chasing a deadline, Finally, long story short, we got our film in, and it was even shortlisted. The first shortlist, when they announced the first shortlist of Malaysian of films that made it to the first shortlist, we saw Malaysia there, a legendary love. Okay lah, they use our tagline, but never mind. So at least we saw that film, Malaysia in that list. Malaysia, a legendary love. Oh, yay.
For the first time in Malaysia's
For
history.
the first time in history. And so a big win for the Malaysian industry, at least.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Is this the first and then there was also a first submission to Oscar.
That was it. The Academy Awards. The Oscars.
Yes, the Academy Awards. And also in Venice Film Fest. Right?
Yeah. So this was the first ever Malaysian film to open at the Venice Film Festival. So people were curious, like, wow, Malaysia, And at the Venice Film Festival, we had to introduce our culture. So we had a night where we did a parade of Malaysian costumes, and we walked to the cinema to open our film there with bunga mangga and all that. So it would be an introduction of what Malaysia is, our songket. I wore a songket outfit, and everyone was like, wow, what is this? She's wearing gold on her clothes. So it was an introduction of the country, of our culture, because I think if you don't know a country, you're not likely to want to go and watch their film. Why? It would be like, what on earth? Who in the world is Malaysia? So if I could do it all again, I would have tried to do like a much more of a Malaysian night, and hopefully gotten the government of Malaysia to come in a bigger way to promote our food, our fabric, our our textiles, our handicraft, just so people are a little more familiar with the smell and the taste and the likelihood of watching a film because you are familiar with it. Like Indian food, you know what Indian food tastes like. You have an idea, you've smelt it, you've tasted it. A Bollywood film, I'll go and watch because I know this. I know the sound, I know what the music sounds like. You're familiar. Korean now, you don't have to say lah. Everyone knows what K-pop sounds like, and everyone knows what bulgogi and Korean food tastes like. They know what Korean people look like, although they can't differentiate us from Japanese and Chinese and all. But that makes it possible for someone to say, I'll give this a try. I'll go watch their film. Yeah.
Interesting. You are also very focused on environment and sustainability, the work that you do. Can you share with us your work on Tiarasa Escape and Dream Forest? How did it come about and where we are today?
Okay. So filmmaker hat off and Tiarasa hat on. Okay. So sustainability is a core value. Yeah. In what we do. I see sustainability as an art form. So creating something beautiful that lasts. Yeah. So at Tiarasa Escapes, sustainability isn't just a concept, but it's a way of life for us. So right from the beginning, when we were creating Tiarasa Escapes, we were very sure that we wanted to use safari tents and tree houses that touch the ground very lightly. And even in the architecture of the whole place and the landscape design, we wanted to touch very little, cut very little, and leave the place as pristine as possible, because nature is what people would come there to expect and to experience. I'm a big fan of nature. I'm an outdoors person, and I just love being surrounded by nature. And I imagine people who live in the city and grow up surrounded by skyscrapers would love this for a change. So we created glamping in Malaysia. At the time, no one had heard of glamping. They were like, what? What on earth is this glamping, And all the publicity and interviews I gave, I would talk about glamping. It's glamorous camping. It's an alternative to your typical resort or your hotel stay. And you're being one with nature. I think the peak of our success was COVID, really, when everyone just wanted to escape from their apartments and being confined in their homes. And now you get to go out and run free. Your kids get to wander around freely over 7 acres of land. And, it feels like you can breathe clean air, and the sight of green, I think, just makes everyone kind of feel like, I am human again. So we create experiences where people can bond with each other over a bonfire. People can just bond with nature again, feeling the clean, beautiful waters that run through Tiarasa Escapes. So that's the kind of experience we want to keep. It's always going to be nature that is the star. So because of that, we preserve nature and we have a lot of respect for nature. We harvest our rainwater, we harvest our river water even, and use it for watering plants and wherever we can. And we train our staff in the latest best practices and make sure that they are the ambassadors as well of sustainability for us at Tiarasa Escapes. Similarly, at Dream Forest, when we were building Dream Forest, Langkawi, we were very conscious that no big trees would be cut. We would create a pathway around the trees if we needed to, even if it made it difficult for us. And again, nature is the star. We just use the forest as a backdrop for us to tell our stories and project illuminations. And the whole experience of walking through Dream Forest, Langkawi, would be to enjoy nature while you learn the story from the myths and legends of Langkawi. Yeah, so nature again is the star, and we made sure that every single person who works at Dream Forest understands the importance of preserving this. Otherwise, we don't have a, this is our livelihood. This forest, this 100-million-year-old forest, and you, the people of Langkawi, need to keep this as pristine as possible for as long as you can.
And it comes with a story.
Yes, it comes with a story. Always storytelling at the core and at the heart of everything.
And it's a Langkawi folklore story.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So every different state has its stories. Sarawak has its stories. Johor has its folklore as well. And yeah, someday down the line, this year, hopefully next year, I hope we can create dream forests like this in every state. So we can tell stories from the land using nature as a backdrop.
Amazing. So you wear several hats: movie making, musical, talent building, environment, sustainability. And you started when you said 18. And now, looking back at your leadership vision and your style of leadership, how has it changed? What has evolved?
Like I mentioned earlier, when I started out, I was a one-man show. So I had trained myself from very young to do everything. So it was very difficult to let go at first and to trust other people. But as I evolved as a leader, it was more collaborative, and I learned to. Now I am a leader who tries to empower the rest of my team to make decisions themselves, as long as they understand the vision, as long as they're aligned with what that main story is and they're part of that story. I try to work with them to bring out the best in each of them. I've also learned to embrace adaptability, Raj. So the world is changing so fast. It feels like just yesterday I was getting used to using ChatGPT, and suddenly there's DeepSeek, and a couple of days later, Puan 2.5 dropped out of the blues. So I think as a leader, you have to be on that you have to be on that bandwagon, or you get left behind. And you have to, that there's no time to be arguing about why is AI taking over our job? Why is, is AI, are robots going to rule the world one day, and what's going to happen to me? Stop moaning and jump on that bandwagon and get with the program now, or you'll get left behind. So we're always, as a creator, I'm constantly looking at all the different technologies available in the world. I'm sharing with my team, hey, we can do websites on our own now. Gosh, look at this image I just created. I made a song, and PowerPoint presentations, all done by AI. Learn, and let's work a lot more effectively and efficiently right now with the help of our AI assistant right now. So the technologies are available to you. As a leader, you need to be ahead of the curve and constantly evolving and learning with the times.
Is there a retirement plan with your energy level that you have at the moment?
What's retirement?
So there's no stopping.
Yeah, I don't know when I will. I don't know how to be anything else, Raj. I've been doing this for the last 3 decades. I can't imagine being anything else. I mean, now I play golf. That is me pushing myself into getting into the mindset of not only working night and day. So I make some time to play 18 rounds of golf a few times a week. And that's as much of a break as I get. Yeah.
What kind of legacy that you like to leave behind for our future generation, future leaders to be?
I hope my work will encourage people to dream fearlessly. to believe that creativity, passion, and purpose have the power to transform lives, to shape industries, to put Malaysia on the global map. Whether in film, theatre, tourism, everything I do, I want every project I take on to have to be a force for connection, for inspiration, and for change. And more than anything, I want my journey to serve as a beacon for other dreamers, for creators, the visionaries, the storytellers, to dare to create something extraordinary. Don't be ordinary. That's so boring, you know? Be extraordinary, be wild, and be bold. That's what I hope my story will be able to share with people. And if my story teaches anything, I hope it's this, that if you have a vision and if you're driven by the right purpose and energy, and if you're willing to constantly learn and evolve and push boundaries, then you can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world.
Interesting. Tiara, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the session. I hope the audience and listeners also enjoyed the session with us. And once again, for your time here, thank you so much.
I've really enjoyed this. Thanks for having me, Raj.
To our audience and listeners, thank you very much for your time and hope to see you again in our next episode. I'm your host, Raj, signing off.